ever get the feeling, and this might sound kind of out there, but ever get the feeling you might be bound by some agreement you never even knew about? And no, I'm not talking about like a forgotten gym membership or something. I'm talking about something way bigger. A heavenly covenant, like a profound agreement with something much larger than ourselves.
Oh, that's a pretty heavy concept, right? It really makes you think about, like, the implications for faith, for personal accountability even. Like, what does it even mean to be accountable, not just to ourselves, but to something beyond our understanding?
Exactly. And that's exactly what we're diving into today with this text, Almighty's Covenant. And let me tell you, the author doesn't beat around the bush. It's like right off the bat, bam, you're hit with this claim that many of us, maybe even you listening right now, haven't quite lived up to the terms of this agreement. It's definitely a thought-provoking read, to say the least.
What I find so intriguing about this text is how it kind of pulls you in, you know? It's not just some list of rules or commandments. It's more about this idea of self-adhering to the covenant. It's like it's an ongoing personal commitment that's reflected in our everyday actions. Like, it's less about these grand gestures and more about aligning your choices, even the small ones, with a bigger picture, a higher purpose.
It's like the text is whispering, hey, you might not have signed on the dotted line, but your life, your choices, they all feed into this massive cosmic agreement. And to really break this down, the text takes us straight to the heart of the matter, this specific chapter in the Quran called Surah Al-Fatiha, which is basically like the essence, the core message of the entire book.
Think of it like those Russian nesting dolls, you know. Each layer has its own significance, and as you go deeper, you uncover these deeper levels of meaning. Surah Al-Fatiha is like that innermost doll, the one that holds the most essential truth, the core message of the Quran.
So how does Almighty's Covenant even begin to make this ancient text relevant to our lives, you know, like in today's world?
Well, the text does something really clever. It presents Surah Al-Fatiha as this dialogue. It's like we're listening in on a conversation between these enlightened beings, those seeking knowledge and understanding, and Allah. It's like eavesdropping on a sacred conversation, trying to decipher this ancient wisdom for ourselves, for our modern lives. It's a really powerful way to bridge the gap between ancient scripture and our modern understanding of faith.
Okay, so we have this heavenly covenant that we may not even realize we're a part of, and now we're about to unpack a key section of the Quran to help us make sense of it all. This is where it gets really interesting. Let's take a closer look at Surah Al-Fatiha, verse by verse, and see how it sheds light on this whole idea of a covenant with the divine. All right, so we're cracking open this super important chapter, Surah Al-Fatiha, and using it as like a guidebook to understand this whole heavenly covenant thing. And it kicks off with these powerful words, right? In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. It's really interesting how the text zeroes in on these two specific attributes of Allah, Al-Rahman and Al-Rahim, right from the get-go. Almost like it's trying to set the stage in a specific way. What do you think?
It's totally intentional. It's actually super important for grasping, like, the core of this whole covenant thing. You see, the text doesn't just throw these two attributes around like they're the same thing. It actually draws this really insightful distinction between them. It's like, think of Al-Rahman as this all-knowing, all-encompassing creator representing this, like, divine order of the universe. Al-Rahim, on the other hand, it's more about sustenance, you know? It's the aspect of the divine that provides and cares for everything in existence with this boundless compassion.
It's like two sides of the same coin. You have this incredible power that sets everything in motion, and then this equally incredible love that sustains it all. And that balance, that kind of interplay between those two forces, it feels really essential for even beginning to understand what this agreement with the divine might actually look like, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. And what's cool is it suggests that this covenant thing isn't about, like, blind obedience to some distant, unknowable deity, right? It's more like an invitation into this, like, reciprocal relationship, one that's built on understanding and aligning yourself with this compassionate cosmic order. Pretty profound when you think about it.
So moving on to the next verse, we encounter this concept of a hamd belonging to Allah, a Lord of all being. And then we hit this phrase that tends to make people a little uneasy, you know, Yom al-Din, which is often translated as Day of Judgment. I'm really curious to hear how this text tackles this concept, because it definitely carries a lot of weight. What's the take on Yom al-Din from the perspective of Almighty's Covenant?
This is where the text really encourages you to, like, ditch those preconceived notions and embrace something a little more, well, nuanced. Instead of painting this picture of Yom al-Din as this single terrifying day of reckoning, it actually presents this really radical concept, Yamal-Din, as the system of time itself. It's like, imagine this grand overarching structure of cause and effect, this intricate tapestry of actions and consequences that basically governs all of existence. It's a pretty mind-blowing way to look at it.
So it's less about this one specific day in the future when we'll be judged for our deeds, and more about this constant unfolding of time where every choice, every single action creates this ripple effect within this larger system. Like the universe is keeping score, not to punish, but to maintain some kind of cosmic balance, right?
That's a pretty powerful way to think about accountability, wouldn't you say? It really is. The text really drives home this point, that we're constantly making choices, both big and small, within this system of time. And those choices, they have consequences that go way beyond our immediate understanding. It's kind of humbling when you think about it.
It is. It adds a whole other dimension to this idea of personal responsibility we were talking about earlier. It's like every single moment, every choice matters.
Exactly. And this awareness that we're constantly interacting with Yamal-Din, it leads us right to that next crucial verse, guide us in the straight path.
Which, and I think I know where you're going with this, isn't about figuring out your moral compass, right?
You're picking up what I'm putting down. This isn't about finding your way out of the woods with a compass. The text frames this as like a heartfelt plea for guidance within that system of time we were just talking about. It's about aligning our actions, even our intentions, with a path that leads to deeper understanding, to spiritual growth, and ultimately to fulfilling that covenant we're exploring.
And I'm guessing that straying from this path has some pretty significant consequences, right?
Oh, absolutely. The text is crystal clear about this veering off this straight path. Basically means separating yourself from that divine guidance, those blessings that flow from being in alignment with the universe, with the divine, with whatever you want to call it. It's like, losing your GPS signal right when you need it most. But there's actually another layer to this whole thing that I find really interesting, and it has to do with this Arabic word the text uses, fitna. It's a word that encompasses this whole range of things, temptation, tribulation, even the deliberate covering of truth, to really illustrate how easy it is to get pulled off track, to lose sight of that straight path.
It's a pretty sobering reminder that fulfilling this covenant, this agreement with something bigger than ourselves, it's not a one and done kind of deal. It's this ongoing effort, a choice you have to make every single day, even when the world around you is pulling you in a million different directions. Honestly, it can feel almost impossible to stay on track, wouldn't you say?
It's definitely a journey, not a destination. And this is where the concept of Islam, at least how it's presented in this text, becomes so crucial.
So we're not just talking about following a specific religion then.
Exactly. The text digs deeper than that traditional understanding of Islam and goes right to the root of the word, which is intellectual submission. It's about willingly surrendering our egos, that need to be right all the time, and opening ourselves up to knowledge, to guidance, and ultimately to truth. It's about constantly striving to align yourself with the divine, regardless of your background, your beliefs, any of that. It's pretty universal when you think about it.
That's a powerful message, especially in a world that's constantly emphasizing individual interpretation and personal truth. It's almost like this is suggesting that there actually is an objective truth we should all be striving for. Would you say that's an accurate reading?
I think that's a really astute observation. And yeah, the text seems to be saying that seeking that truth, actively engaging in that struggle to understand, it's all part of upholding the covenant.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stop there. The text goes on to emphasize that it's not enough to just passively receive knowledge. There's more to it.
There's a responsibility that comes with possessing knowledge, right? Like what you do with it matters. That's where those biblical verses you mentioned earlier come into play, right?
Bingo. Almighty's covenant transitions from this deep dive into Surah Al-Fatiha to this really interesting passage that describes the characteristics of those who are truly living up to the terms of this covenant, those who are guided, those who find success both spiritually and in their worldly lives. And here's where the author makes a super fascinating move. He starts drawing parallels to verses from both Matthew and Luke in the Bible. It's like he's building bridges between different spiritual traditions.
Okay, so now we're connecting the dots between the Quran and the Bible in a way I definitely wasn't expecting. This is where it gets really interesting. So we left off talking about how Almighty's covenant brings in these verses from the Bible. And I got to say, I'm really curious to see where this goes. It's not every day you see the Quran and the Bible side by side like this.
It's a pretty bold move, right?
Yeah.
And it really drives home this idea that this whole covenant thing, this agreement with the divine, it's not just some niche concept limited to one specific group of people or belief system, it's speaking to something much deeper, something that resonates across all of humanity. It's like we're all in this together.
You know, it's like these verses, even though they come from these different scriptures, they're echoing the same truth, like different voices singing the same song in harmony.
That's a great way to put it. It's about recognizing our shared humanity. You know, we're all on this journey of trying to understand ourselves and our place in the universe. And both of these passages, the one from Matthew and the one from Luke, they're laser focused on this idea of responsibility, the responsibility that comes with true knowledge. Like in Matthew, we're given this warning about hypocrisy, about people who talk the talk but don't walk the walk. You know, They might have knowledge, but they're not letting it inform their actions, their choices.
And then Luke takes it even further, right? He's calling out those who hoard knowledge, who are almost afraid to let that light shine, to share it with others who might desperately need it.
Exactly. And it all ties back to what we were discussing earlier about that straight path and the very real dangers of straying from it. It's like the text is saying, okay, so you've been given this map, this guidance, but it's not enough to just find your own way. You're meant to share it, to help others find their way too, to illuminate the path for those who are still stumbling in the dark.
So it's not just about personal enlightenment then, it's bigger than that. It's about actively contributing to a more enlightened world, playing your part in this much grander story.
You got it. It's about recognizing that interconnectedness, you know. Our actions, our choices, whether we choose to honor or neglect this covenant, they have a ripple effect that goes way beyond just us. And that brings us to that incredibly powerful closing statement. This is a reminder to all realms who betrayed Almighty's covenant and broke it. The people of the book today are the believers, the Muslims, Christians, and the Jews. You are neither far from them nor safe from self-injustice.
This is where the text really gets real, doesn't it? It's not hinting around anymore. It's directly calling out those who have failed to uphold this covenant. And it's not limited to one faith or another. It's like a universal wake-up call.
It's a bold statement, that's for sure. And it leaves us with this powerful invitation to really look inward, to reflect on our own lives, our own choices. The text reminds us that this covenant, this agreement with something greater than ourselves, it's not just some abstract idea we can debate endlessly in a classroom. This is real life. It's about recognizing that we're all connected, all part of this intricate web that extends across time, cultures, belief systems, everything. And within that web, each of us has a choice to make.
It's about realizing that we all have a part to play in this grand cosmic story.
And that choice, it gets right to the heart of this whole heavenly covenant thing. Do we choose to seek deeper understanding, to cultivate compassion, to work towards the betterment of ourselves and the world around us? Do we strive to imbibe the principles of this covenant in our everyday lives? Or do we neglect that responsibility, choosing instead to hoard knowledge, to perpetuate hypocrisy, and ultimately to contribute to the very self-injustice that the text warns us about? It's a question worth sitting with.
It really is. It makes you think about the weight of your choices, you know? What kind of legacy are you creating with every action, every decision? It's been an incredible deep dive, and as always, we want to leave you with some food for thought. What does it mean to you to uphold this covenant in a world that often feels so divided, so disconnected from something bigger? What small steps can you take, starting today, to bring yourself into greater alignment with this profound agreement? We'll leave you with those questions to ponder. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep striving to live a life that truly reflects the best of who you are.